Hey everyone. It's Monday and it's 5:30, so that means we've got things to talk about. So once you hop on in, let me know that you can see me and that you can hear me. Some people are joining. That's great. Just gonna try to get all my technology set up here. Awesome. Cool. So I'm getting some highs and some yeses. Awesome. This is great. I used to be able to see your names when I did this, but now I can't. So I'll figure that out another day. It's fine. I'm happy to have your comments at all. So this will be just fine. So we're kind of continuing our we won't talk necessarily about puppies, but foundation behaviors kind of imply that we're talking about puppies a little bit. Good. Some more comments are coming in. There was just a little bit of a lag. I have to decide which. All right, perfect. Yeah, so just basically, if you want me to know who you are, you're gonna have to tell me who you are because I've lost the ability to see your names. I just see Facebook user. I'll figure that out eventually. It'll be fine. Basically, it this is because I don't read anything before trying it. I just do it, and luckily Lizzie's advice and instructions were super helpful to me because I think I did figure out how to set up YouTube as well. But which means I'll probably wait for her to save me about finding your names again too, but I'll look into it. Yes, it is day one of my very first FDSA class, so cheers to that. How cool is that? Even if you didn't sign up for my class and you want to share, if you did sign up for a class, tell us what you did sign up for because everyone needs what they need. But if you also want to sign up for mine, I'm not going to stop you. So tonight we're talking about foundation behaviors, what they are, what my favorite ones are, how can we progress those behaviors? Do we ever stop doing these things? Hi, Sandra. Hi, Anne. Thanks for sharing your names with me since and I don't think I can manage to also pull up Facebook and have another screen, though I guess I don't have to see myself. I sent the YouTube link to a few people, so I'm wondering if they'll see it. I just sent it to them. I didn't prepare at all for the YouTube bit. That's okay. On to this. So we are I'm just gonna for me, I don't know that beyond and all right, I'm seeing someone signed up for my class. Thank you. I appreciate that. reactivity management with Amy, glue for future agility star. Oh, thank you, that reminder. I'm very excited about that class. I think it's very similar to the ideas that I have about essential skills, and Nancy is fantastic. So I definitely want to support that. I try to follow along as best I can. And of course, if it sparks some additional ideas I need to add to my own training program, that's good. So we did a talk a while back about, excellent, you guys. Oh yeah, my jumping workshop. I found that today, and it's 70 minutes long, and I had to talk fast, and it was very hard to win. And I hope I did it justice. I really hope it's okay. So we did a talk a while back about my essential skills, and those are the things that I teach my dogs first now. That's the things that I need them to know to make training easier. That wasn't really the question. You guys wanted to know specifically the skills that I teach. And so I had a really hard time with this because there's kind of like a foundation exercise at my communication system. Nancy says goals and gold, or are you what level? Yes, the jumping workshop is the 7th, but we have to film it a week in advance so that people on the admin might have time to get it uploaded and get it into the lecture system, make sure it works, because if something went wrong and I didn't notice it wrong, and then to record it. So anyway, X is I kind of build up a reinforcement history for the dog, following my handling and my natural cues. And quite a lot of them I tried to stuff into the workshop because I want naturally kind of following us around. I subscribe to a system that is built primarily on the cues. I don't have to do those things, but I do want to build a reinforcement history for those things. And I want to kind of make sure everything's in a balance. So I want to take me, I want to kind of assess personality and what they might be more obstacle focused naturally, or are they going to be a little bit more handler focused naturally. And it's really interesting. When Smack was a puppy, he would be anywhere like near me unless I was actively tugging. It was exhausting to have him. We lived on a farm in Mississippi, and we didn't get so many age dogs or winter, and he went somewhere. And so you might think that like way more independent and would be so high obstacle focused. It's the exact opposite. He's actually he's pretty well balanced now, but I had to build that. He was very, very handler focused as a young dog. I had to put a lot into build obstacle focus and building up his ability to go without me. So that's one of my favorite foundations, is without me. It's just building their desire to even fastest. So I really enjoy. But if that doesn't need that, so Shock, who when she was a perfect puppy, you guys, like the most perfect puppy, she did nothing wrong, and she was always with me. I had to do a smack. She was just perfect already. And her obstacle focus, she was next to me when we got far from me. Doesn't get far away if she goes, he's not there. She's like 6 inches away from me. So it's really interesting because she had obstacle focus. I went out to the agility field and she's just jumping jumps by herself. And if you know me, you know that drives me a little bit bonkers, because I try really hard to reinforce that behavior of actually doing obstacles, because it makes it harder to force obstacles, right? If the obstacles are the highest reinforcer, it makes obstacles, and that is basically our only problem, is that she doesn't actually need me or my reinforcers. And Smack and Shock are full siblings, and when I don't just do a set of foundation skills, I start somewhere and tell me which do we need to go in the direction of building more obstacles, of building more handler focus. So basically I wrote down following the handling is like the number one foundation. And so I'm just using my body and the I am lots of skipping and okay, it's about buffering, lots of skipping. Okay, then if I can do anything about that. Good news is I haven't said much. Just talking about my dogs. And if it's really terrible, try going. Well, now that that's terrible, let me know. I'll see what I can do. I'm going to get rid of all of this and this. I sound like a robot. Oh no. Well, I've done what I can do on my end, you guys. No, I won't talk at all. No, I'm going to talk. I just wanted to make sure everything on my end was as optimized as possible. Getting better. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. So following the handling is kind of something, because a couple of you asked, do you ever stop doing foundation? And I feel like no. The answer is no. What you keep doing. Okay, good. If the sound is okay, guys, you don't need to pretend it's a podcast. Put your screen down and pretend it's a podcast. So if it's just a video that sucks, it doesn't matter. I'm just talking to myself. The foundation skills, it shouldn't, I really don't like doing foundation skills that it's like you do this thing, but it doesn't really connect to the big picture. I want to start a skill at the easiest, most bare minimum level and just keep building on it from there. Like we talked about on Friday, that's why I feel completely comfortable starting an 8-week-old puppy in agility training, because it's not formal agility at that point, but it is 100% going to be formal agility very soon. So following the handling starts, can you go in a straight line to your reward? Can you just parallel my motion to a reward? And then can you do soft turns around my body to your reward? And then can you do more angled approaches and follow my body instead of going straight to the reward on the ground? So, and the reward is representing an obstacle. So then later and then I might be at the same time teaching my dog how to go around a wing or a cone, and then I can insert the wing or the cone between the dog and the reward. So then I'm still handling to the reward, but the dog is seeing the picture of an obstacle now. And so I'm building that obstacle focus, but I'm also building up their commitment to go to things, which is another really, really big thing for me, is that, like I mentioned earlier, dogs come out of the box following us. Puppies naturally know that if we take off running, they should take off running after us. We use that to our advantage all the time. They don't necessarily know to direct their attention somewhere else while you're running. And that's what we need to teach them. So that's kind of number 2 on my foundation skills list is, can you redirect your focus from me and all my motion to something else? And can you keep going to that something else while I run away? And the very beginning of that is it's just a reward on the ground. Bowl of food, tug toy, whatever they want, because I've already done those essential skills things. I've already developed a reinforcement procedure that I can then use for these foundation skills. I can also just send a puppy to a bowl of food, but then if you want verbal bowl control later, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But that's a different conversation. Like my border collies, they don't have dish control, but if it's in front of them and I send them to it, they're going to eat it. Still good? Excellent. So on that note, I'm going to make sure that my dog can go forward straight and accelerate and kind of extend and make sure that they can move ahead of me. I work with a lot of dogs that don't know that they're allowed to pass their handler. And that's a problem because then if they don't understand that they're allowed to go past you, rear crosses can't happen. They're going to be dependent on your speed for their speed, or they're going to be frustrated about going fast because you won't be able to outrun them forever, right? Puppies are very easy to outrun, but if we don't show the puppy the concept of going past you, it's going to be really hard to ask them to do that later. And on the flip side of that, I also need my dogs to learn how to slow down. I always make sure that they know how to go fast first because it's much easier to reel them in than it is to build them up. So I would rather make them a little bit over the top obstacle focused, a little bit too much go, 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 a little bit too much go, go, go. Not a lot. So I'm very careful. I'm watching it. I just want, I want confidence first, and then I teach them how to slow down. And we try to keep everything as balanced as possible. Sarah Stremming says balance is a verb. And of course, she's using it when she's talking about behavioral wellness and things like that. But I mean, it's applicable here as well because and Shrek is a really good example of this. He's very suggestible because if I work on go, go, go one day, the very next day he can't turn. And then if I work on slowing down and turning him, then the next day he doesn't know how to go ahead of me anymore. So he's very easy to throw off balance. So every day I'm doing a lot of this with him, right? And at some point I'll feel this for like 45 seconds and then we'll be back over here, right? So as you're swinging back and forth, you do spend a little bit of time perfectly balanced. But some dogs, they're very easy. So someone wants to know, what do you do? I wonder if I can put this on here. What do you do if your dog is built with all of the go button, but they feel that slow down shouldn't exist? Well, you get what you reinforce. There, in my jumping workshop, there is one of the exercises is teaching a slowdown cue. And maybe a workshop on collection skills. I mean, I probably could. Actually, kind of what I decided is my jumping skills workshop is probably going to have to be a class. I'll see what the students think and see if I want to put a class together. But, sorry, got too close to the camera. You have to reinforce the dog for slowing down. And if you're only reinforcing the dog for jumping, that's still reinforcing the dog for reinforcing the dog for going forward. And we need to reinforce the dog for slowing down. Let me see. Is the video better for you guys? Let me know if the video is better, less choppy, because if it is, okay, then give me one moment here. Spoiler, this is in the workshop. Oops. Let me do this. Thank you. This video is in the workshop. But this is what I mean about reinforcing slowing down. Smack didn't slow down. Yeah, since I just put it together, all the videos are still on my computer, so I can give you guys this preview. And I'll let you guys watch the whole thing. There are 17 demonstration videos in the workshop, and I had to cut some because I knew the workshop was going to be too long, and it still went 10 minutes over. So I hope it's okay. So this is just how I'm introducing us, and you see how he responds to my actual slowdown cue after being reinforced for slowing down a couple of times. He is not a stranger to this exercise, guys. So don't feel like, oh my gosh, I just have to go give my dog 2 cookies for stopping and then we're good. When he was really competing frequently, I was having to do this reinforcing him for stopping before the jump, so reinforcing him for slowing down. I had to do that between every competition to refill that reinforcement jar. Remember, we talked about filling the jar? I had to spend a lot of effort filling that jar up to kind of encourage him to slow down, because that's what happens, right? When we can do and I did see the question about going ahead. I'm gonna get to it, I promise. So we stop reinforcing them for slowing down when we start sequencing, because we're like, okay, they turned, it was okay. So we have to go back and actually reinforce the behavior of slowing down, and having them jump doesn't reinforce that. So you can give a reward for jumping nicely, but that's not what the dog is thinking they're getting rewarded for. The whole thing gets it's the jumping that gets reinforced, and then when you start running sequences and you go to trials, the running gets reinforced. Yeah, it's on FDSA. It's a jumping workshop. The slowdown cue is just one of the concept exercises, because I don't think you can teach the dog to wrap if they don't know how to slow down. So this is just how I teach the slowdown cue that fits in with my communication system. Yeah, let me know how it goes with Micah, because I think it's really helpful for them. Can I talk a little bit more about how to teach a dog to go ahead of you? That's my issue with one of my dogs. So first, I start with something they really want, either food or toys, and it's very close to us, so only 2 or 3 feet away. Blah, blah, blah. I was reading the comments and I forgot what I was going to say. It has been a very long day. Been up for a very long time. So I start with something they want, and I start very close. And as soon as they look at the thing, They don't have to go to it yet. They just have to look at it. I mark, and they get to eat it or bite it or play with it, and I make it very exciting for just looking at something. Because what's going to happen, think of it, you're shaping, and so you have to split it into approximations. If you just wait for the dog to go to it, it's not going to go as quickly. But before they go to something, they're always going to look at something. So if you can maximize marking when they look at something, so they look at something, and then you say, let's say I'm using a dish, and they look at the dish because, ooh, what's that? And the moment they look at it, I say dish. They have to walk towards the dish to access the reinforcer. And what happens is everything from the moment you said dish to the time that they picked it up also gets reinforced. So you're going to build value for moving towards the reward by marking when they look at it. And that concept carries over to teaching obstacle focus. And in the jump offering. And then once they're really like into it, I just increase the distance very slowly. And then I make sure that if I have a dog that doesn't want to go away from me, I don't run with those dogs. And it's super counterintuitive. I think most people would say if you want to build drive, you go faster and you cheer them on and you blah, 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 blah. But I kind of think of it like this. If my dog isn't sure he wants to go away from me, I need to back off. I need to walk. I need to stop breathing. I need to stop being the supervisor watching over his shoulder the whole time to make sure he does it correctly. He needs to feel like he wants to go forward without me. So I don't want to put more pressure on him going, come on, let's go faster, 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 faster. I want him to figure that out on his own. Someone asked a question. Just ask Flash, that must be Linda. Reinforcing slowdown is so important, and do it on a regular basis. Exactly. Oh, smack. Yeah. I mean, well, you saw the first rep in that video. He wasn't having anything of it. So you can see where his jar was at. Do I address keeping bars up at extension? I talk very briefly about extension in the workshop. So it's not a huge, so basically this is the outline of the workshop. I talk about my responsibility. So I talk about the handler's responsibility. And then and that includes like timing. So you also got to, in the workshop, I try to explain timing of cues in less than 2 minutes or whatever it is. I don't know. So handler's responsibility, criteria. Then 3 basic skills that I think every dog should have before they start their jump training, their formal jump training. And then I talk about extension and collection as a concept, not necessarily a skill-ish. And then I go into wraps and slices. And under wraps, we do front side and backside wraps. And in slicing, we do front side and backside slicing. So there's a whole lot in there in 1 hour. And so extension is just one tiny piece of it. Do I let them go as soon as they look at it? I'm usually not even holding them. In the very beginning, I don't hold them so that I can capitalize on it. So let's say I have, because think about it this way. If you're, I don't like holding them because 2 things may happen. They might decide, you might let go at the wrong time while the dog is like leaning away from it or staring at it. Anyways, I don't want to necessarily hold them because the timing can be weird and you can produce some frustration that you don't want to deal with. So dog is on the ground, bowl is in your hand. What's going to happen as soon as you put it down? They're going to look at it. They're probably already looking at it. So I can really optimize on that before they ever begin. And then I can, pull the dog away with a cookie lure, put something else in the dish. As soon as they eat the lure cookie, they're going to go, hey, did you put something else in there? Boom, mark. Things like that. So especially if they don't want to go away from you, I'm not going to hold them back from it. So try it without holding them. I can second this. My girl got faster and more willing to go forward on her own when I backed off and walked. Isn't it cool? I mean, I did it with Smack, and he wasn't lacking confidence or speed, but he got faster when I backed off. Yeah, so it's not on my list, but I do teach my dogs how to be restrained, but I don't use restraint to increase drive, whatever that means. When someone is restraining my dog, I do not want them to fight to get away from that person. And I don't want them to feel frustration when I leave them with another person, because it's not necessary to use it in that way to get your dog to go fast. And it can be really detrimental to their confidence. And they just don't like it. They don't you just don't have to do it. They'll go fast if they want what you are sending them to. Boy, I said something because comments are coming in now. But I do teach my dogs how to be restrained and focused forward or focused on me. I teach them that when I leave them with a person, that they should be watching me for instructions, but they can be held calmly. And it's in the foundation class. And some dogs are just naturally going to have that opposition reflex. They're going to want to pull forward. And obviously, then those dogs aren't deterred by it, but it could produce some habits that you don't want, meaning that that's how they're going to be on the start line, leaning forward like that, if that's their habit being held. Someone asked, do you give them a cue to take it? Yes. So my eat food from bowl cue is dish, and my take toy from ground cue is getta. It's funny that someone suggests that I teach flyball because I can and sort of am helping a student do that. But don't tell anyone. I don't have time to teach flyball. Thinking I will need gentle restraint to add distance to reinforcement since my puppy doesn't have a stay. Like I said, here's the things that I'm teaching in my foundation classes. Number one is stationing, so that you have like an informal stay, because the station becomes a magnet. The dog doesn't even know they're in the stay. They're just like, I love my station and I do my station no matter what. They just love it. And I teach them how to be held, and I teach them that it's okay that I'm going to leave you with this person. And the person holding them should just be a prop. I don't. I'm getting distracted by the comments again. The person holding doesn't have cookies or anything like that. And we started with a couple of dogs in my last foundation group that the first thing is to just line your dog up next to someone else and feed them and go on. And then line your dog up next to someone and their arm touches them, and then you immediately release them, and then restraining them. And I try not to necessarily like have the holder grab their collar, be handsy, just a little bit of light pressure on their side, the dog's like, okay, I stay here. So you don't need, you don't need to hold them up by the collar and get them jazzed up. Do I have a verbal cue like go for take what's in front of you? I do. So I say go, go, go for just keep going in a straight line, take whatever is in front of you. And then my slow down cue is shh. All right. And I look like I'm caught up on comments and questions. So another foundation skill handling wise is I want my dog to be comfortable turning in both directions, and I want them to be, so dogs naturally want to turn towards us. So I want them to be comfortable turning away from us too, because that's going to be super important in agility. So I have exercises that you can do on the flat to help them learn about turning in both directions, and then progressing that on cones or wings and jumps and tunnels and things like that. So, but I think installing that ability to turn in both directions and towards you and away from you needs to happen pretty early, because some dogs more easily than others become pretty left or right paw dominant, and Shock has a really hard time. She would rather turn to the left. So if she gets into a situation where she has a choice and it's a difficult choice, she's always going to turn left. She's going to default to turn left, unless I am so clear and made it so easy for her to turn to the right, which is why in her demo videos, I'm almost always turning her to the right. Do you ever find that the dog doesn't want to leave the station? If the cookies are too easy there, why would they leave? Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. So then if that's the case, then I would put some effort into, I wouldn't be rewarding on the station for a while. Remember, everything is a balance. So I would only be rewarding away from the station. So as soon as they get on the station, I would cue tossed food. So they get on, I say get, and I toss a cookie, so that reinforcement is away from the station. And then when your dog is springboarding off the station and you hate yourself for breaking your station, you can go back to feeding them on the station. It's all a balance. You're going to swing this way, go, uh-oh. You're going to swing this way, go, uh-oh. And then at some point, you're going to have 2 or 3 reps right in the middle. Do you use a slowdown cue and then your wrap cue? No. Only if I want them to multi-wrap. So I just have a slowdown cue, and then it's follow the handling. Because, so in training, I often do multi-wraps. And so those I have on left and right cues. I very rarely, so I could use my left and right cue in replace of a slowdown cue, but here's an no, I don't have it. So if I wanted a wrap, I could just cue the jump with shh, and the dog will follow my handling. The dog will slow down and then follow my handling back to me. So I would like turn and run in the other direction. Or I could say, if it's a right wrap, I could say right, right, right instead of shh. And the dog would, she might not slow down as much, but she would prepare to turn tightly to the right. So she would probably collect. But most of the time, I just have them follow my handling. I'm not clever enough to use left and right all the time. Don't dogs have a natural side dominance? They do. But if I can determine what their dominant side is very early, I can work on that balance. So Shock would prefer to turn to the, I'm going to do it. No. Okay. Shock would prefer to turn to the left. And so I almost always, I do, for every one left turn that I practice, I'm going to do 3 right turns. And if I had noticed it a little bit sooner when she was a puppy, it might not be so bad now as an 8-year-old dog. How much of that is genetic compared to learned? I think their dominant side is, you know, just what it is. Like you and I, we were either born left-handed or right-handed, right? We're born that way. And then, however, whichever one's reinforced. So I think we can help it, because Smack would prefer to turn to the right, but he's pretty well balanced. I salvaged it. Benefit of multi-wraps, getting it, I use multi-wraps. It's a skill in the workshop for letting the dog get into a good habit of good form for wrapping. So making sure that the dog knows how to square up before he takes off for a jump. And if my dog is impatient on course and does not want to square up, I can send him for another wrap before continuing on the course. So if the course needs me to cue a wrap and I cued the wrap appropriately, and my dog was impatient and jumped on the slice anyways, didn't square up for the wrap, didn't add a stride or whatever, I can send him again for a multi-wrap and move on when he does square up and jump it appropriately. So then I can reinforce good form instead of stopping or accepting the wide turn. Yep, the workshop shows that video I just showed you to develop the slow down cue. Linda is working on balancing her lead leg dominance. I did get the live stream worked out, I think. It's working? Yeah. Lots of work, but learned how to play soccer left-footed. Oi. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm trying to learn to throw a frisbee with my left hand. Sometimes it works out. Restream just congratulated me because we got 100 comments. Woohoo, go us. Someone posted the YouTube link, so apparently that is working. Sweet. Difference between a slice and a wrap, maybe. Let me look. Let's see if I haven't. Oh, maybe this. This is me cueing it on the outside of the turn, but here's a wrap. Here's a slice. I'll play that one more time. This was a video in my loopy training. Here's a wrap. This is, see how she's gonna, and she jumps it a little bit on the slice. So if I were training that, I would have sent her again because she didn't square up really nicely. She kind of took off still on the angle. And then you saw there, she took off on a very extreme angle and she touched the wing there. So I was filming that for a different reason, but if I were actually training that, I would have reacted to those things a little bit differently. It looks like someone shared the link to either my class or the workshop, probably the workshop since that's what we're talking about. So thank you for the link sharing. All right. So those are the kind of things that I focus on for my handling system, and I just increase the difficulty over time as the dog tells me that they can, and then that eventually becomes handling. So eventually it morphs into techniques and things like that. Do I have an online foundation class? Not really. If you're okay with piecemeal, you can join the online coaching program, and maybe someone who's in there now can kind of share their experience with it. But the online coaching program, I'm trying to turn into kind of this library of everything that I train my dogs to do. It's just really difficult right now because Shrek can't train outside right now because hunting. It's like prime terrier hunting season, so I'm fighting with that right now. And but I'm trying to keep the content, keep new stuff going in there. But a lot of these things that I'm talking about will eventually be in there. So if you're okay with piecemeal or kind of bouncing around a lot, the online coaching program is going to be a good place to go. If you see behind me, I have a list of FDSA classes that I'm trying to develop, and I want to put together first my essential skills class and then foundations after essential skills, which of course would be, sometime next year. So it doesn't help you right now, but it's in my brain. It's in my brain to get started on those things. So for, let's say I'm training contacts, my foundation skills is something like a moving down. We've talked about moving downs before, or the stationing. If I don't want to deal with the moving down, which is fine, the concept of stopping can be taught on the station. So I can teach my dog the concepts of stopping on a thing regardless of whatever my body is doing, and I can proof it to no end or enhance the fluency of the station in the same way that I would enhance the fluency of a contact. And so then when I ask my dog for those behaviors on a contact obstacle, they're already like, oh yeah, we've done this 100 times before. It's no problem. So I do teach moving down or stationing as a foundation skill, and bumping it up from there. One of my students says, I've really enjoyed the online coaching program for retraining a couple of foundation pieces. I like the short video submissions and regular feedback, so I feel confident progressing session to session. That is super kind. I like the format too. Yes, it will be on my website, synergydogsports.com, under online classes. There's a little blurb. So working spots, you can post an unlimited number of videos every week, but the videos are 1 minute long, and you just have to wait for me to give you feedback before you submit another one. And there is also auditing option and observer option. So, and there's a lot of stuff in there already. I just want to keep adding things regularly so no one gets bored. And then someday when I get a puppy, I'll fill in all the gaps. I also want to teach tunnel skills. And the other thing about the online coaching program, I don't want to skip over it is that even if the content isn't listed, because it's impossible, I wasn't even sure I wasn't going to do it. The pandemic made me do it because I wanted to give something for my current students, and I was like, oh, okay, this is good, and so I opened it up to other people. Um, but I can't, when I create the content, I cannot anticipate every single issue that I'm going to run into. So the content is just kind of there to guide you, to give you a starting point with your training. And then the feedback I provide is as if I'm there with you in class. It's what I would do if you were in front of me. I'd be like, all right, let's try this. It doesn't have to be like, oh my gosh, follow. And if it's going, or your dog is following the script just perfectly, and I can just go, okay, this looks perfect, step 2. This looks perfect, step 3. And you don't need as much individualized feedback. But if you run into a snag point and go, well, that's not going to work for you because you have this history, right? So the feedback, I will sometimes go, you're going to do this differently than how I might do it with the dog that I'm demoing it with. So it can get very individualized. So the content is there to guide you, but if you're looking for really good feedback and some individualized training, that the working spots are getting that. Okay, tunnel skills. I started to film some of these with Shock this afternoon. I want the dog, actually, I need to be able to control how my dog exits the tunnel. And this is one of the most difficult things for handlers to do. That where's your dog going to come out of the tunnel at? How far is he going to come out of? When is he going to turn out of the tunnel? Is he going to come out of the tunnel naturally turning towards you? Is the dog going straight out of the tunnel no matter what you are doing? You have to know these things if you're going to plan how to handle tunnels and exits of tunnels on courses, because you have to know where your dog is to know how to handle them to the next obstacle. So what I need is I need to be able to cue my dog to keep going straight out of the tunnel. So stay in extension all the way through the tunnel and keep going straight on the line that the tunnel spits you out on. I need the dog to be able to give moderate turns. So turning soft turns like 45 degrees up to 90 degrees. So they don't have to turn really tight, but they don't need to be shooting out of the tunnel. They need to be coming out of the tunnel with their head turned and their body's already turning in the correct direction. And then they also need to be able to do really tight turns. So more of a collected type of tunnel. So that they slow down a little bit and almost wrap the tunnel exit. So I need to be able to have cues for all of those, and then I want to train all of those. And I need to be able to understand the balance of those cues as well. So, because some dogs need a cue for going forward, because they naturally want to turn, and they're very easy to get the dog to turn tight. They don't need those things reinforced, and other dogs need very strong turning cues for the tunnels. So you have, again, we're talking about a balance. Shock today, I discovered, is very easy to turn if her toy is not on the ground. So I have to work through that. So that will be a really good tunnel skill lesson in the classroom, because I didn't know she couldn't do that. I thought she could. Maybe she used to be able to, but she couldn't follow my handling under distractions. And since that is a basic skill, it's what I started this conversation about, is follow the handling, and she couldn't do it. So back to foundation. It just never left, right? So for those wondering, like, how do you how do you leave foundations? You don't. You're always just going up and down the difficulty level depending on what your dog needs and where your dog needs a refill on their reinforcement. So my foundation program is set amongst this kind of the first skills I teach. It's forever just those same skills for the rest of their lives. And I just can go up and down the ladder of each of those skills. And some things can be trained at the same time, and other things you need skills 1, 2, 3 before you can do 4 and 5. Filling the foundation jar is filling the sexy jar. It's filling all the jars. We were doing some coursework with Skreek today, found out that she couldn't send to the tunnel when there was a jump between her and Graham, so we had to go back and break down layering as a skill that she just, whether she has it or doesn't have it or had it at some point, her jar was empty in that moment. So we stopped everything and we focused on filling that jar. And then it was fine. And then she was tired. So we quit. And we didn't make it as far along in the course as we had originally planned, but we couldn't continue the course without this skill. So we needed to fill up the jar that was empty. Otherwise, the whole thing falls apart, right? There's no point in continuing if this jar is empty. Because if this jar is empty, you don't get to try the other jar. It's like a domino effect. If you skip this domino, if this one doesn't fall, the next ones don't fall either. Or it falls in the wrong way, right? I've tried to use this domino analogy for a couple years now, and I don't actually know anything about dominoes, so I have no idea if it's a good analogy or not. Do you guys have questions? I don't have any more skills to talk about. So now I just want to answer your questions. It is. Does that mean it's a good analogy? Is that what we're saying? I hope it is. I think like running agility and like planning an agility course feels like setting up those elaborate domino art pieces. And right? So a small error, you might be okay. You might just like hold your breath and go, oh, whew, it still worked. But major error, missing piece, it stops. Where do we go to sign up for your online coaching? I will try to grab the link. That's not it. And if it tells you, so if you sign up, if it tells you you can't, I do have a limit to, a limit to how many spots I have. So I will check it when I get off of here to make sure that the number available is accurate. Thank you. Someone also grabbed the link for me because I don't know if my comments show up. Having an amazing default check-in, waiting on you. Check-in, waiting on Amazing default check. Oh, so do you mean just default eye contact, waiting for cues? Clarify that question for me, and I am happy to talk about it. Do you prefer toys or food? If both, how do you teach your dog to go back and forth? Woof. I cannot answer that in 60 seconds. Um, I it's not up to me which one I prefer. It's up to the learner. So it does me no good to have a preference because if my learner doesn't view it as an adequate currency, it's not going to get me anything. That being said, some things can be easier to reinforce with a toy. Some things can be easier to reinforce with food. Going back and forth between the two, um, can someone look at Shade's syllabus? So Shade Weitzel teaches her toy play class, and I can't remember if she does it in the first one or the advanced toy skills, but she does at some point address going back and forth, switching reinforcement. Because that's who I'd go to for that. Like I can give advice, but if and easy toy to food stuff, I'm totally your person. But if it's got a long history of one way or another, or there's a lot of conflict, then Shade is who you would prefer to go to for that because it's her area of expertise. But Megan does have limits. Megan should not have limits, but she does. I just really, how cool would it be if there was another Megan? So yes, waiting on me for action. So that's standby, and it is on my to-do list to just create a quick little content for the classroom because basically, so a prerequisite skill is that the dog has to know that eye contact is a reinforceable behavior. So that they have to know that, and then I just build duration on eye contact, and anytime I teach a reinforcer cue, I build the reset of coming back and offering eye contact is in part of that. So I teach eye contact, and then I teach duration of eye contact, and then I apply it to every single reinforcement strategy so that the reset is wait for instructions. And I make it really clear in my body language when I'm training it. So I'm either very formal, like if I'm doing obedience, my hands are at my sides, I'm formal. And if I'm just doing like informal training or agility, my hands are still usually at my sides, but my posture is way more relaxed. My legs aren't necessarily together. And if I want the dog to try stuff, I'm usually sitting or in a chair, and my hands are usually here. This is try stuff. Hands at sides is wait for things. So you don't care or push to use both. Not if my dog doesn't enjoy both. That being said, I spent a long time getting Shrek's toy play to be cooperative and useful for me, but he already enjoyed it. He already found toys reinforcing. It was the cooperation that took a lot of training, but they were already very valuable to him. If the dog doesn't find it valuable, I'm not going to bother. Because it's not, the type of reinforcer isn't what's important. It's how you apply the reinforcement that is going to get you somewhere. So some comments, Shade's toy class. We think switching reinforcement toy to food, back to toy, or food, toy, food is in the advanced toy skills class. So I think it would be next term, August term. And someone says it's in crucial concepts, and I think she runs that class every term, maybe, or every other term. Maybe that will also be in the next class. Cool. But yeah, Shade's your girl for that. Perfect. You guys are great. She probably does cover it in all of her classes. Where is Shade? She should be here. I'm plugging her every single week, it feels like. Yes, so we need to apply the reset and wait for cues all the time. I've been using your stationing suggestion for training when I have to check out reset stuff, and it's been amazing. Yes! Awesome. That makes me so happy. Okay. December is advanced toys. Maybe I need to look into that too. I often swap rewards with Micah. If he's fine with it, Nikki, then that's cool. I wanted to say, I keep wanting to call you Andy, Nikki, and I know that Andy is your dog. Awesome. If you can squeeze in one more question, I'll answer it. But otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and call this. I will get an email out to my mailing list this week. Now that I think I have, since we have, that's funny, Nikki, you're called Andy for the first year. It's, yeah. I believe it. So, my boyfriend's name is Graham Logan, two first names, and so he would always get called Logan. Quickly-ish list your foundation skills list. This is what I wrote down. I probably talked about it in a different order, but here's what I wrote down. Following the handling, commitment to obstacles, go forward, slow down, lead changes, moving down or stationing, so a concept for contacts, tunnel skills. Those were the things I talked about. And go back in the archives of this group. And did I say slow down? It was on there. Go back in the archives of this group and slow down. That's funny. No one ever taught me a slow down cue. It's not been reinforced. Following the handling. Commitment exercises is very hard. Go forward. Slow down. Lead changes. Moving down or stationing for the concept of contacts. Tunnel skills. And then go back and watch the essential skills talk if you missed it, because the things my dog needs to be able to learn any of all this is in there. That was very hard. I'm gonna need a lot more reinforcement than that one little good job, but this behavior won't last. The jar is empty, you guys. Mindset training for memorization. Is this a suggestion? Because I would have to study, have a cookie or two. I'm gonna go have some dinner, actually. What I was saying is I'm gonna get an email out to my mailing list, letting people know that this will also be available on YouTube on Mondays. So you can join my mailing list. Yes, 100% having that cocktail. you can join the mailing list. It's on my website on the blog page. You can subscribe there because you guys are all here, so you're going to see it on Facebook. But if you have people that are not on Facebook that you think would be benefiting from these chats, I would really appreciate you forwarding it on to them. Because just the more people that join us, the better, because I want to share with everyone. So thank you guys. We'll come back next week. So that's like the 8th. And if you guys want, we can talk about more. I kind of mentioned it today, but how do you know when to revisit these kind of foundation skills that I talked about? Do you guys want to talk about that, or should I go to the next thing on the list? You let me know, and I will get the email out to my mailing list, and maybe I'll even put a blurb on my website about these weekly chats because they seem pretty consistent. But anyways, let me know if that's a good thing to talk about next week. And if so, we will talk about it on the 8th, same time, same place, but also now on YouTube. So tell people, because I know there are some people that the next thing on the list, I don't actually know. I mean, there's a whole list here. I mean, if I just went back to the top of the list, I am gonna, so I don't know. There's we can stick to the foundation theme for another week. So we will talk about how to know when to revisit it, how far back do you go, things like that. So basically refilling the jars. All right, so we'll do that next week. Get on my, you have the ideas. I know, I really kind of tortured myself about, like, do I leave it up there or do I erase it? But I didn't want to have to put it back up there again, so it stayed. So that's my goal. I think those are the things I'm thinking about. If you guys have ideas for any type of content, I always love to hear them, so don't be afraid of sharing your thoughts with me on that. All right. Mailing list. Someone can't read it. Well, someone who can read it can post it. It's no big deal. The first 3 are on the schedule, or no, these 2 are on the schedule. First 2 are on the schedule, and then we're just going to keep adding. It's fine. You'll know about it when it's published. Nothing is a secret. It's fine. I will see you guys next week. And thanks for joining me. Have a good evening.